Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between, and at the end of the episode, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week, so for a chance to be featured on an episode, be sure to comment your pick of the week. Now, I do have a Kickstarter going on for The Dancer issue 2. It's about a young woman who's a dancer slash assassin, and when she was little, she witnessed her parents being murdered in front of her and never dealt with that trauma until now. So it's kind of like if Batman dealt with his shit. So hopefully you guys can go check out the Kickstarter. There's ways to catch up with the book as well, and some awesome tiers there. Now, going into the books for this week, I had a pretty normal sized haul, and number 10 for me this week was Superman Robin Special Issue 1. Now, this is a book I was actually really looking forward to. It was in my most anticipated for the year, actually. I love the idea of two books I've been enjoying, Robin and Superman, son of Kal-El, seeing what they've been up to. You know, these two friends have grown throughout the years. They've been going through a lot. Robin with his Lazarus tournament stuff, and then Superboy kind of taking over the mantle as Superman, and also his relationship with Jay. There's definitely been a lot with these characters, and I feel like this book definitely turned a little into more of the Super Sons aspect. That was not a bad thing. It just wasn't for me. I'm not a fan of Super Sons, so to see the more adventure type storyline didn't really do it for me. I just thought there was a lot of untapped potential here. You know, we had this big, large one shot where I really thought we could have seen a little bit more of a deeper story from this friendship, but mostly it was just like an action issue, and again, more of an adventure issue similar to what we would see with Super Sons. The artwork was a little grittier than expected for a Super Sons book that tends to be a bit more cartoony. Kind of has this Greg Capullo feel to it, and with a little bit more edge. But overall, I still like the artwork for the book, so I'm going to give that 2 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is Devil's Reign issue 3. This has a lot going on, and it does feel like just a book to have an event. You know, a good example that I feel like was a very event book, but really tied into their stories a little bit better, in my opinion, was something like War of the Realms, or even King in Black. I thought did a better job at progressing the story of Thor themselves, and then also Venom themselves, and really connecting to the previous volume, or the actual solo series. Here, I feel like Daredevil's really put into the background, and there's so many characters that they're trying to focus on that it gets a little muddled for me, and I feel like it just for the sake of having, instead of Dark Reign, they're calling it Devil's Reign, just to spin the wheels of an event, and I'm really not feeling this event thus far. I do want to finish it because I do like this Daredevil run. I want to see how this is going to affect the issue 1, how this is going to affect Matt, and how this is going to affect Elektra, and maybe even some of the other characters. I don't know how that's going to bleed through. That's also a little bit of a worrisome thing here. But the artwork I feel like is a little thin at times. I know it's the same artist as Daredevil, but I don't know if it completely works here because it's just so crowded, this book. So overall, I'm a little disappointed with this one and giving that 2.5 stars. That is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is Static Season 1, Issue 5. I believe this is the penultimate issue of the season. And honestly, I've been reading it just because I like Static as a character. I've been kind of middle of the road for the book in general, but I think it really does shine when we get to see the supporting characters. And you do get to see some moments for them here, and just the bleeding of the original Milestone book with the cartoon that we know and love. I will say the mood and the tone is a little darker than expected, and I feel like if they lighten things up a bit, for me, I would be able to get into the book more, even from a coloring perspective. There's an interesting cliffhanger if you're a fan of Static Shock, but overall, it's just an okay book. I do want to see it through, see if it'll get a season 2, but this issue for me kind of fell flat. So giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Robin issue 10. I love this book, but this was kind of an info dump. I know it was supposed to be, where we get to see, you know, what Ra's al Ghul's connection is to this. We get definitely a little bit more from the Al Ghul family. who Ra's al Ghul's mother is, or grandmother, I think it might have been grandmother, and how they're connected to this demon. And it really does skew away from the tournament aspect and even the Damian Wayne aspect, where a lot is being explained to him, which I'm not a big fan of those type of issues in comics, and I don't think it quite worked here. Obviously, it does progress the plot, and we are getting to learn a little bit more information, but this is definitely not my favorite angle of this book. I like seeing Damian interact with other people and getting to see more of him instead of just reacting. Well, I will say I want to see him react, but it's just him really listening in this issue. The artwork is really solid. I don't think it's the same artist that usually does the Robin book, but it definitely has a familiar style to it. So I thought that was very crisp for this book. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is the new creative team for Marauders Annual issue 1. And I thought this did a pretty good job at showing, okay, these are the people that are going to be in the team. This is why. But really what hooked me is probably the ending of the book, where you actually get to see a map and you're like, oh, they're actually going to be pirates. Because I feel like the conversation of them being pirates in the previous volume was just that. It was just a conversation. We didn't actually see them on the boat very often and doing pirate-like things. It was just, that was kind of the background. And this, it does seem like that's going to drive the plot. So I'm excited for that. We even got to see a little bit of Emma, even though she's not in the main book anymore. And I also thought the artwork was an improvement. I thought everyone looked really nice here. I didn't really love the get the team together stuff. It's not usually my favorite aspect of a team book, and it's done a lot when you're trying to get a team together. And I don't know if it really said, oh my god, I needed Psylocke here. Oh my god, I needed this character here, which I think is needed when you have a kind of explainy issue like this. But overall, I think it had a promise and a direction, which is nice, where I feel like Marauders has kind of faulted in that in the previous couple of arcs, I would say. So I'm going to give that 3 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Wonder Girl issue 7, the surprise finale of this series. So we did not know it was going to end, but it is going to kind of continue the narrative with this new Trials of Wonder Woman. I think that's what it's called. At least it's the Trials of the Amazons. I'm sorry. I'm not following Wonder Woman. I do think I'll at least try out 1 or 2 issues of this trial. It's nice to see Wonder Woman in the forefront, besides just like Batman and Superman having an event and tying in other characters like Donna and Yara and Cassie. And this one, I think it did a good enough job to try to tie loose ends together, especially between Aros, I think that's how you pronounce their name, probably not, and Yara, so that was nice. But there wasn't any of the big character moments I've been enjoying, like the Donna moment or the Cassie moment or even the Artemis moment, because those are actually the things I was really enjoying, and I wanted to see Yara part of that. But it looks like, hopefully, this Wonder Girl miniseries will continue to do that. The thing I also really enjoy, obviously, is that Joelle Jones is doing all of it. It's the artwork, it's the scripting, and it really flows pretty well. So, yes, it was a surprise ending, and it probably didn't blow my mind for a finale, but I think it did the job as much as it could for this one. And we'll see how it continues with that event series. So, giving that 3 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Thor, issue 21, and this was a really interesting issue. It's Thor versus his hammer, and his hammer is actually a person and an entity, and a conversation's happening in this issue, and even Jane's brought up a couple of times, and I just thought it was such an out-of-the-box concept for Thor. We've never really seen this from the character, but it completely makes sense. What is his relationship with his hammer, if his hammer was actually a person? And we definitely get to see some plot progression there. There's a lot of great gritty artwork for, a relatively more action-heavy issue. So overall, I thought it was a really fun one, and I'm excited to see where this is going to take us for the rest of the Thor series or the rest of this arc. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, I'm so happy to see this higher than it usually is, and that is the Amazing Spider-Man issue 87. And the reason why I like this a bit more is because I think it split the time between Ben and Spider-Man, or Ben and Peter, a little bit better. And it's Peter trying to get the gist of being Spider-Man again. And I just loved his interaction between Steve and even Black Cat, the unassuming person that would be the person trying to teach Peter to be a hero at the same time as the Mary Jane and Black Cat one-shot comes out the same week. And even the Ben stuff I thought was a little better, where we get to see him explore his memories and then obviously learn a little bit more about the evilness of Beyond. So I thought that was a bit better, well-balanced in this. I thought the artwork was pretty solid overall, and it's just a fun issue. And I hope that more issues are like this, splitting its time, because I want to see Peter shine. Obviously we've been missing Peter. It's been so much about Ben, and I don't think his plot has been as interesting as Peter's plot. So overall, giving that 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2. Speaking of Spider-Man, speaking of Mary Jane and Black Cat, that is my number 2 pick. I was so anticipating this book for the year and just for this week as well. And I love Mary Jane, and I like Black Cat. She's not my favorite spider character, but I like her when she's interacting with certain characters that are good foils for her. And Mary Jane's a really good foil for her. And at first you think it's just going to be this adventure, these two characters that usually don't interact with each other, definitely don't usually do superhero things with each other. You get that fun adventure, you get a connection really with Hawkeye Freefall, surprisingly enough. I don't think it's a series that many people read. I did read it, so the Hood's kind of connected to this, and then by the end, obviously, they save the day, and they do it in a really fun, unique way where their personalities really interact well with each other, and the artwork is really fun, and kind of espionage-esque here, because you're getting to see more of the burglar aspect, and I love the ending of this issue, and I think that ties it together really well, where Black Cat's upset that she's the bad girl. That's what everyone thinks of her as, and Mary Jane's like, I was the bad girl. You really think when you compared me against Gwen Stacy, the perfect Gwen Stacy, that, I wouldn't be the bad girl? And you actually get to see this growth of friendship. And it has nothing to do with Peter Parker. And I think that's what was interesting, too, because I really thought it would have to do with, we know how it feels to be Spider-Man's girlfriend. No, it's just like, I know how it feels to be the bad girl. I know how it feels to be this, what people perceive me to be. It has to literally just do with themselves and not Peter at all. And I thought that was a really great way to end the issue. So overall, this is such a solid issue. And if you enjoy these characters, I think you're gonna have a lot of fun from an action perspective, but I think it has a lot of depth from this issue as well, which I hope we get to see more of either in the ongoing series or other Spider-Man related titles, because I think this is just such a interesting dynamic that we don't get to see enough of, which is why I felt so excited for this issue, because I think it's something that hasn't really been tapped into. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, of course, it's the return of Saga, issue 55, and I'm so happy to see this book back, and honestly, just going to the comic book store, I saw a lot of fresh faces there, and I'm definitely thinking Saga is going to bring a lot more Wednesday warriors to the comic book store, which I think is really important. People that just love the trades, wanting that next issue from a single issue format and bringing people into comic book stores. If anything, Saga is going to do that, and I was really impressed with so many things about this issue. Obviously just hearing Hazel's voice again, which is always what sucks you right in and sucked you in from that first issue, but also that they did take that 3-year gap. So the story doesn't pick up after Marco dies. It's actually 3 years later, and seeing how the family has grown, how Hazel has grown, and Hazel doesn't really feel anything for her father's death, which I'm very interested to see why. But there's also just some structure changes, which Saga's also always very known for. They're always trying to change the status quo, where we get to see Squire is actually Hazel's brother now. We get to see Alana, I think that's how you pronounce her name, or the mom, where we get to see that she is now a drug dealer. And it's just interesting to see how she's trying to make money and how she's trying to raise her family as kind of a single mom. She does have a business partner as well. And we do get to catch up with other characters as well here. And I just thought it built the narrative really well, where you definitely feel like it's a new chapter, but it's also explaining what happened previously in a new reader-friendly way. So if you never read Saga before and you know the gist of the book, I actually think they do a good job at making this a jumping-on point as well, which is so tough for an indie book and so tough for a book that's up to issue 55. But they do a really great job with it, and that opener is just so beautiful and textbook way to write a comic, and really utilizing the visuals and getting you connected to the characters. Overall, it was a wonderful return, and I can't wait to read more Saga and just see more from this creative team, because it's been actually a while since we've seen any Fiona Staples artwork and also Brian K. Vaughan stories. It's been, I don't remember the last time I read a Brian K. Vaughan story that was like a new issue, and I definitely don't remember the last time I read a Fiona Staples artwork or saw her artwork. So it's also nice just to see these two creators back on a monthly basis. And it's also $2.99, so it's a cheap book as well. So there's a lot of things going for that one. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite comic of the week was. And the viewer's pick from last week was Eternals. And here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.